Treadmill. Brilliant title of the book, and we'll talk about that a bit more, no doubt. Format for today is that we'll ask some questions and then open up the floor to questions from all of you. Let's start with asking you, Gifty. Could you tell us a bit about your life so far, a bit of a project history about yourself, please?
Yes, certainly. Well, first of all, thanks for having me. This is my third talk this week, and I'm meeting lots of new and interesting people, so it's quite exciting, actually. And some of you might already know from past lives. Right, so about me, I was actually born in Africa, Ghana to be specific. That's where I grew up, and I came over to England when I was 20. I studied accountancy, branched off into IT somewhere along the line, had 2 children, got 2 dogs, and a husband along the way as well. Basically ended up doing all sorts, spinning my wheels, and one day I thought, something has got to give. But that's how I got to this point. But hopefully that gives you some checkered history about me and who I am and why I'm here.
Wonderful, thank you. So, as I said, Octopus on the Treadmill, could you tell us how you came up with that title and a little bit about what the book is about?
Yes, so my husband doesn't like it when I say this, but he actually came up with the title, and he's like, why are you giving me the credit? But fair is fair. Because I was, when I started off, I was actually going to call it How to Live Without Prozac, to be honest. And because there are stats out there showing that, particularly for women, in the US, it's 1 in 4 is on some form of mental health medication. And in the UK, research by Platform 51, which is a women's pressure group, showed that 1 in 3 women on some form of mental health medication. So it's a huge number out there, it's a silent epidemic, and people are just suffering without telling anybody. And you wonder why, and it's just because our lifestyles currently, they have got stress baked in, and a lot of us are creaking, and the whole huge sort of weight of stress. And for those of us in consulting, we know what that feels like, right? With all the traveling and, you know, how the time different hotel rooms, and you wake up and you don't even know where you are, never mind who you are. So it was how to get the balance into your life. And if you're spinning your wheels, if you were working mother and all the other elements of your life, how to put everything in perspective and get that balance, and not end up one day just completely stressed out, hating everything and hating everything about your life. So it was, how was I going to capture all that in a book and have a title that will make people pick up the book? And so lots of troubleshooting, and then the octopus bit, all we know, 8 arms. And then on the treadmill, so we don't even have the luxury of standing still to spin all the plates we're spinning, you know, it was on a treadmill. So when he came up with it, I thought, mate, I'm taking that off you, thank you.
So what actually inspired you to write the book?
So about 10 years ago now, I found myself standing at Harley Street, clutching a list of 14 symptoms on a spreadsheet, because I did say I trained as an accountant. And I used to track my symptoms on a spreadsheet, and the project managers here, you will know what I mean by RAD status. And I had a RAD status, red, amber, green, on those symptoms. And every month I'll have a look and see where am I? Am I red, am I amber, am I green? And as time went on, I thought, this is not right. And I kept going to my doctor, and they'll ask, consistent with your age, this is all normal. But I knew the quality of my life. I was having maybe 1 good week a month if I was lucky. I knew I couldn't go on like that. So NHS weren't taking me seriously. So my husband is like, you've got to go private. So I did. And this is after the consultation with one of the top Harley Street consultants. I came out clutching pills and standing beside a tube station thinking, oh my God, and I was convinced that there was something wrong with my hip at that point as well. And I just thought, this is crazy. I can't do this. I don't want to stay on medication for the rest of my life. I need to live a different life. This life is not working for me. Something is just got to give. So that was what brought me to realization of what was going to give, and it took me on a whole journey. And the book is about my journey and is searingly honest. And how I got through my issues, and how I'm not standing there clutching all the medication, and how I chose to use all the other pillars of life to balance my life, rather than the easy route of just popping tablets all the time and all the side effects that come with it.
So there's a lot of advice in the book about all of those pillars. Maybe just tell us a little bit about what those pillars are,
Yeah.
and then we can explore that a bit further.
And the good thing about this interview is Sarah's actually read the book. So others have interviewed me and haven't read the book, and it's been a bit vague in their questions. So thank you, Sarah. This makes for a rather engaging interview. So yes, I go on in the book about all the different things I did, and I am quite specific, actually, quite prescriptive in certain parts. But to me, there are 4 pillars of life, and you ignore any of them at your peril. So when you start off, you have the physical, and in the physical, you're looking at your diet, what you eat, you're looking at exercise, are you having enough sleep, are you drinking enough water, and all that side of things. So for the physical, for me, I always thought I ate well. And when you don't know enough about food, that's what you think. Because I'm lactose intolerant, so I wasn't there stuffing my face with Mars bars and crisps and all that. So I thought, I'm good. And I never had a weight problem, so I thought I'm still good. So why exercise, right? I just didn't understand enough, you know. And I wasn't drinking enough water because I thought, Evian, I don't want to boost their profits. So yeah, I'm not doing that either. So I just didn't understand. Now I understand a lot more, so I eat well, I exercise even though I hate it. I actually hate running, and that's just, you know, disclosure there, but I make myself run when I'm stressed out, because I know physical exercise cuts through stress like hot knife through butter. It just does. When I go for a run and the endorphins have been released, I come back and I'm thinking, bring it on, I can take the world on. Right? Before that, you're just completely overwhelmed and you think everything is just way too much. But if you haven't been looking after yourself and you're not in a fit state, you can't even do the exercise. I mean, I have been there where going up 2 flights of stairs was too much. I will get to the top and I will be huffing and puffing and I'm thinking, who am I? I just couldn't do it, just going up a flight of stairs. Now, by choice, I park on the 5th floor and do the stairs up and down, by choice. Whereas this is something I wouldn't have done before, but I know it's good for my bone density, and because I'm 105 years old, my bone density is important. Before that, I didn't know, but when I was standing by the tube station at Harley Street and I had done a bone scan and I was being told that it was less than optimal, and suddenly I had a limp, I thought, no, the exercise now has got to be prioritized. And when it comes to exercise, things that I say is do what you love. So I love yoga, so I will do yoga. I hate running, so I only do running when I don't have a choice. But choose something that works for you, otherwise you just won't do it. And once you understand how important it is, you will actually do it. So I've gone off topic now. What was the question? Right, so that was a physical. That was it. So of the 4 pillars, so that's a physical. And then you have the emotional. And this is so important, and this is where the mental health comes in, right? So the factors that affect our lives. So LSE, London School of Economics, they did research, and the research, it was in 4 countries. It was US, UK, Germany, Australia. I believe we have one Australian on the line. And they had 200,000 respondents, so this is quite a broad research. And they basically, in that research, had the factors that impact our life satisfaction. And this is a simple quiz I do everywhere I go. And Sarah, you're not allowed to answer that question. What do you think came top of the factors that affect our life satisfaction. It can be somebody on the phone, it can be anybody in the room. Please put me on my out. Money. Whoa, well done you. Well done you. Money came fourth, by the way. Money came a dismal fourth.
Relationships.
Relationships, that's good. Relationship was number 2. Food. Wow, okay. So, I suppose I'll put food with physical health there somewhere. Okay. Any more? So if I put food with physical health came at number 3. So we've got number 2, relationships. We've got number 4, income. We've got number 3, physical health. What do we think is at the top? Believe it or not, have you got any more on the phone?
I'm waiting, somebody's typing. Self-satisfaction.
Self-satisfaction. Okay, so I'm going to cheat here, and I'll put self-satisfaction as part of mental health. Mental health was at the top. It outstripped everything, and it was at the top. But if we think about how we structured our lives, how many of us are waking up in the morning and thinking, okay, I'm spending this percentage of my life on mental health? No, we take it for granted, right? We take mental health for granted. We're not taking active steps, but that is the number 1 factor that impacts on our life satisfaction. So for me, that was eye-opening. And I thought, I need to structure my life in a different way, and I need to make sure I'm looking after my mental health. I need a partner. If I don't have one, I'm going to look for one. Right? I am then going to look after my physical health, and then I'm going to look for money. I do understand that sometimes the money helps do all those other things at the top. I do understand, I'm not that naive about that, but when it comes to the way we structure our lives and where we're putting our emphasis, and when you're stressed out, you're having all these demands, and you think, how do I prioritize? Here is a simple way that you can prioritize. Is it impacting on my mental health? Because my mental health is what is affecting your emotions. And if you get up in the morning, and believe you me, I've been there, where you're thinking, I want to stay under this duvet for the rest of the day, there's no work getting done. It just ain't happening. So you need to take care of your mental health, and then all the others will stand a chance of getting where they need. So emotional, that was the second pillar. The 4th pillar is mental, as in what you are putting in your mind. Are you reading good stuff? Are you educating yourself? Are you training yourself? Are you keeping your brain agile? So that gives you that sense of growth, that sense of expansion. It's a brilliant book called The Growth Mindset, which basically talks about whether you have a fixed mindset or growth mindset and how it affects you as well. But it's your mental development. What do you do? So normally work is good for that, because companies like Chaucer will send you on training courses and stuff like that. But what are you doing for yourself? So apart from the technical training you're doing at work, are you developing new skill sets? Are you having new hobbies? What are you doing to have more neurons connecting in your brain to keep you alive and to keep you from getting perhaps Alzheimer's later? So that is also important. And last but not the least, and I always come to this last, but if you ask me, this should be first, is the spiritual. And a lot of us, that just doesn't feature. But spiritual, this is not about religion. This is about philosophy. This is about what will set your emotional template, believe it or not. This is about your values and what your philosophy is, and what really makes you get up in the morning and put one foot in front of the other when the going gets tough. Now, there are all sorts of tools out there. There's mindfulness, there's meditation, there's all sorts of tools out there that helps with the spiritual aspects. But basically, when we're talking about spirituality, it is what we're talking about is another piece of technology to help you manage your life. And this happens to be the spiritual technology. And it's ways of managing your thoughts to steer you in the right direction. When you're doing the meditation and everything is coming at you, when you sit down to do meditation and basically suddenly you're thinking about the shopping list and pizza and everything else, when you get experienced, you realize that meditation is a metaphor for life. You're sitting down and you're seeing all these things come at you as they come at you every day in your life, and you have a choice. What am I going to engage with? So when that colleague that literally you think, oh my God, I am going to have to go, and I don't know what you want to do to that colleague, when they're annoying you, right? Rather than letting that really get out of control, how are you going to pull that back and say, I am not engaging? You know, I know how to count to 10. That methodology, that is what spirituality is about. So it's not about religion, but again, having that and developing core skill sets in that area to help service your life. Those are the 4 pillars.
Wonderful. Thank you. And I know this is going to be a really challenging question, but what would you say is the most important? What do you think is the thing that's like, get that bit right, or maybe the first place to start?
Yeah, so for me, spirituality. And I have been told that I go on a lot about spirituality in the book, and it's the shortest chapter in the book, and it's because I don't think it's everybody's cup of tea. But when people take out the religion out of it and they realize really what it is, it's a skill set, and developing your mind, that helps you. Again, I'm a pragmatist. So, not everybody wants to get up 10 minutes early and sit there and watch their thoughts or write a gratitude journal or whatever it is people are going to do in that space. So I will say, it doesn't matter where you start, just start. Start somewhere. Decide you're going to eat well. Decide you're going to park on the 5th floor and walk the 5 flights of stairs. And decide you're going to go for that run. Decide you're going to put an effort into your personal relationships because they sustain you. Make that choice, and it doesn't matter how big or small it is, just start. And when you start in one area, you would realize that soon you will be doing the other areas as well. Because when you've gone for a run and you come back and you're feeling good about yourself, you're thinking, okay, what else can I engage with? What other challenge can I face? And then that helps you engage in the other areas as well.
I'm going to ask you now about the topics in the book. You talk a lot about, from a woman's perspective and being a woman in the workplace. But interestingly, one of the chapters is actually a man's perspective on doing things that are maybe traditionally seen as a woman's role.
Yeah.
And it was really interesting reading that about his experience as a father. So what are the key lessons that you took away from his story and his perspective?
So the key thing for me is that we all face the same challenges, be it a man or a woman. What defines those challenges is the role we're playing. So here was a man playing a typical female role. So those challenges will come at you regardless of your gender. Those challenges are defined by the role you're playing. And he was a single father, by the way. So, and again, I've had people come at me. I was at Citibank on Wednesday, and they're like, you didn't say anything about single mothers. Sorry. So, and hats off to them as well, because whatever those of us in partnerships and relationships are doing, they don't have that extra buffer. They're doing it by themselves. So he was a single father, and he was doing the primary carer's role. So he was having all those things that a woman, all those challenges, a sense of isolation, and you've left your career, because he was all high flying, all macho, and then suddenly there he was with the kids cleaning, changing nappies and stuff, right? So these are critical skills that are needed, but nobody is out there putting them on a CV. So he was feeling the sense of alienation. And when I interviewed him, one of the things I said to him was, hey, I've heard that men pushing strollers in parks and stuff, women are throwing themselves at them. I said, well, that was not my experience. Nobody was leaping out of the bushes at me. He was suffering from the loneliness of leaving the workplace and being a full-time father, and the loneliness of personal relationship, not having one, all that. So challenges that primary carers face are the same, regardless of whether you're a man or a woman. It has gender nuances if you like. So he had the challenges of the women from the school not wanting their daughters to have a play date with his daughter because he was a single man at home. So he has his other challenges. And also, a man doing a primary carer's role, normally people will look at you. So when he went to the mother and baby groups, he was the man there, and he felt he couldn't talk to another woman because they felt he was trying to hit on them. So there was all that. A woman will never have that challenge. So we all have our challenges that we face, and you get the gender lens around it. But for a man, it was the same thing as keeping the balance, looking after the children. What am I going to do? Am I working and doing the childcare thing? Am I not working and doing the childcare thing? It was the same thing. And for me, it was heartwarming to know that, he felt the same as I felt at the end of the day.
So you've got a lot of experience of working in different work environments. What are the three things you wish you could tell anyone, male or female, entering the workplace or being in the workplace nowadays? What are the three things that you would pass on?
So first thing is, remember, the work is only 30% of your waking hours, and you have to put it into perspective. Okay, so you cannot ignore the other aspects of your life, and the other 70%. So if you're burning the candle both ends and spending, 60% of your life at work and forgetting about the others, you are doing yourself a disservice. You're going to get burnt out, and also you are doing your company a disservice. They're not getting the best you because you're not coming in balanced. You're coming in stressed out, tired, not having slept enough, grumpy, taking it out on your colleagues, and nobody actually likes you. They just haven't told you. So you just can't do that. You have to remember that work is only 30% of your waking hours. No, not even 30% of all of your hours, not just the waking hours. If you do the waking hours anyway. So so you have to pay attention to the other side. Second thing is, you owe it to yourself to pay attention to the other side. You just owe it to yourself. It's for your well-being. You will live longer. You will have more to contribute to society if you're looking after the other side of your life. So you need to get that balance, and particularly for young people setting out as well, you need to know that and we were talking about this, is finding your purpose, and once you find your purpose and you have your balance, you need to know that work is a marathon, it's not a sprint. So when you're starting off, you need to pace yourself, and you need to go for the balance. And once you understand, and you understand the 4 pillars, and you're going for it, you will be able to last the long haul. You will not be the one being sent off to occupational therapy or whatever it is they need to send you to because suddenly you can't cope and you're having a mental breakdown. You will not be the one, because the people that have done that perhaps have not gone for the balance as much as they should have, or didn't know that they should go for the balance because they were just going for the pay packet. And that is important, but it is not to the exclusion of everything else. So remember the percentages. It's only 30%. That's the first one. The second is the remaining 70%, you owe it to yourself. And also remember, it's a marathon, not a sprint.
Thank you. I'm going to talk about the actual process of writing the book, because a lot of people talk about wanting to write a book, but most never do. So did you always know that you had a book in you? And once you got started, how was the process of writing it down?
Yeah, I always knew I had a book in me. I'm surprised it took me this long to get it out. And anybody who knows me knows I talk a lot. And they're like, oh, you should write a book, you should write a book. But talk is cheap. So it's like, when I decided to write the book, and of course I was writing the book because I felt I owed it to other people, particularly women, to put the story out there, so next time when they're feeling alienated and they feel they're losing and they're not balancing everything and they're not turning up, looking the yummy mummy, stereotype that we all have to squeeze ourselves into, they can see that there is a real life out there, so they're not beating themselves up. So I knew I had to get the story out there, and writing the book itself was a joy. because I love writing. I mean, I write a blog as well. I just love writing. It's a way of expressing myself, and it helps me organize my thoughts. And English literature was my favorite subject at school, and I can read until my eyeballs fall out. I just devour books. So this was really, for me, talking about your purpose and everything, this was so in my comfort zone. I was born to do this stuff, but a mortgage got in the way. Anyway, so when I started writing the book itself was a breeze. The things I found challenging is you can get the thoughts down, but you have to structure it, you have to find a title. And then it goes to an editor, and then it comes back scribbled all over, and then you have to pick your ego off the floor and do it all over again. And even that wasn't as bad. And then it was like, oh my God, there's the artwork on it. Oh God, So there was all that. So there's the technical bits of the book. That bit I didn't find so enjoyable. And then there's the marketing. Oh God. So that there's all that. So writing the book and getting the thoughts out there, that was the easy bit. And my editor said to me, you need to get a second book out. And I'm like, can you hear yourself? It took me 3 years to write this. And it was 1 year of faffing around and thinking, yeah, I'm going to write it, put a few thoughts down. And then when you start, and then you think, okay, perhaps I didn't know as much as I thought I did. And then there's the research, and then you get it out there. And then there was, and this is a very female thing, there was the confidence thing. Who wants to listen to me? What have I got to say? Blah, blah, blah. And then you try and talk yourself out of it. And I knew if I hadn't taken this out, my husband would have divorced me. Because it was like, you, after talking so much, have to get it out there. Because I almost bottled it and didn't do it. But thank God to my husband and my editor, and she was pushing and the pressure was on me, and I had to just literally overcome all my fears and just get over myself and get it out there. And then when it came out, I was just overwhelmed by the response. I was absolutely overwhelmed, and I couldn't believe it. And I suppose the result of having worked as a consultant, you just know people all over the world. Because you traveled, and people everywhere, and they're like, oh my God, Gifty, I didn't know that. And I thought, oh, thank God I finally got it out. So it was rewarding when it came out, but 3 years, some parts of it not so enjoyable. But the actual writing of the book, I loved.
Wow, fantastic. One of the things that I found when I was reading the book, you're so incredibly honest, and you talk about things that I've never seen in the same sentence in print before, and to me it's like this is a I'm talking about from a woman's point of view. I've not seen those things together. You're really talking about what it's like to have a female body in the workplace, and that's incredible. Did you ever have second thoughts? You talked about that kind of, oh, do I put it out there? Did you ever have second thoughts about that honesty and how much you were sharing, and did you think about how people would react to all that you've shared?
Yeah, so I didn't think about how people would react, to be fair. I am naturally an open person. So a lot of it, putting it out there, was not as hard for me perhaps as for other people. The bits that affect other people in my life, I had to think about that bit of it. And even now I'm getting demands to do stuff that I think will expose close family, which I would rather not do, because I have my story to tell, but I have to protect my children, etc. But in terms of the woman side of things and the feminine side of things, I felt I owed it to women to put it out there, because there is that sense of people comparing, as they say, your basement to somebody's attic, or no, your basement to somebody's living room. That's the thing. So you have all your clutter, and it's not a like for like. And we don't know that. So when you see somebody and they're looking pristine and all that is sorted and all, you don't know what is going on behind the scenes. And also the level of engagement I've had with people. If I hadn't been open, people have opened up to me in ways that I didn't think. And people I thought were strangers are coming up to me and telling me, oh my God. And some of the things I'm thinking, you really want to tell me this? I think you should be telling your doctor. But it's that level of openness and engagement, and it's almost giving people permission to know they're not alone, because there's a lot of, everybody's looking at Facebook, somebody's Facebook person thinking, oh, she's perfect and everything is all right, and no, it's not all right. Sometimes you wake up and your life is just not where it wants it to be. Sometimes your children are not doing what they're supposed to do and you feel like a bad mother and you failed. Sometimes you look at your husband and you're thinking, who are you again, right? So we all have those things happening, but for me, it was important for us women to know how to manage ourselves and how to manage our body. And once we can do that and we get that control and balance back, suddenly we get a different lens and we can put things into a different perspective. And I thought there was no other way to so when I asked Joanna Lumley to write the foreword, and she read the book and she said, this is the book I thought I had. This is the book I wish I had when I was starting out. And I also think I owe it to young women, because the expectation on women is high enough. I just owe it to them to see that we're all dealing with something. There is a way to manage better, and hopefully I'm helping to put something out there. But without the honesty, I don't think I would have got the engagement that I got.
No, it's wonderful. So my last question is really about what's next, and I know that you've been invited to give a TEDx talk. So tell us a bit about that. What's the topic?
Yeah, that's exciting for me. That's a dream come true, and every day I have to pinch myself. I'm thinking, oh my God, so all these years I've watched all these TED talks. I'm thinking, oh my God, I want to do one, and here I am. I can't believe it. So that is about showing up. The theme for the TED talk is showing up, and it's TEDx Women. And it's about women showing up. And for me, showing up it's got two sides to it. It's showing up for yourself. So, the exercise, the eating right and sleeping right and all that is showing up for yourself. That is doing things that help you be the best you. So that is how you're showing up for yourself. And then the second bit is actually showing up. As in, a lot of the times we've talked ourselves out of showing up. I almost talked myself out of showing up with the book, and there are things we all want to do. We've got our dreams, we've got aspirations, and we stop ourselves from showing up. And I had to get over myself and show up with the book for TEDx to come knocking at my door. So you have to show up. And if you stop yourself from showing up, and for women, and again, I was talking to Sarah before, the typical thing is you're looking at the job spec, you're looking at the skill set, whatever it is, and we will look and think, unless I'm ticking all, 20 of them, I'm not even going to bother to apply. What is that about? Do you know? Throw your hat in the ring. You never know. You might be the only one that shows up, in which case you get it by default. So, so showing up, showing up for yourself, as in, your own self-care and how you do, because nobody else will show up for you, mind you. Nobody else knows what you're dealing with to be able to show up for you. People will show up for you, but in different ways, and you're the only one that can show up fully for yourself. And if you're showing up fully for yourself, you have that self-esteem, and people around you realize that there's that self-respect in showing up for yourself, and that kind of affects people around you as well, because you're showing up for yourself. And then it means that you realize the opportunities that are there, and because you're there showing up, you start attracting things to yourself. So you owe it to yourself to show up.
Brilliant. Thank you. Well, we really look forward to the TEDx talk, and I'm hoping that I get tickets. So,
Thank you.
Brilliant. So I'd like to open up the floor now to everybody else, either in the room or online. If you've got questions for Gifty, now's your opportunity. So, Hannah.
I've got one. This week was World Health Day. What do you feel the outcome of how it's promoted in the UK? I think it was on Wednesday, wasn't it? Yes. It's good timing.
It is good timing. So this when I was at City, because it was like, oh yes, mental health, and it was really in tune with what it is. So for me, now you have big organizations taking health seriously, because now they know that it's about the whole person, not just about the output of work. So if you're looking after people well, if you're supporting them in other ways, you will get more. The output is more. So on that health, when you get big organizations and when you get big initiatives pushing health, I think it can only be a good thing. How people engage in it and whether people are made to take it seriously, that is a whole new thing. Because some people just don't value themselves enough to even be paying any attention. So at least it's out there now and it's more accessible and it gets into, you know, the zeitgeist and people start thinking about it. So that can only be a good thing. But there is an individual responsibility. For me, I had to be clutching my 14 symptoms before I got to that point. But there is an individual responsibility on people to engage with the health side and realize that it's not optional and that you don't have to wait until you're 75 before you start taking care of yourself.
I've got a question from Kira, who's online, and she's written, your dedication is written to Papa, and how did he influence and inspire you to write this book?
My dedication is...
Written to Papa?
Oh, right, yes. Well, so here we go, just for those that are wondering, here we go. I need to get my eyeballs in at this point.
Oh, sorry. I think it's Dada, isn't it? Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's right at the front, I believe.
Yeah, it's second.
Yes. So, this Dada is my dad, by the way. Right? And for making me feel that I deserve to be loved just by virtue of being alive. Now, my spirituality comes from the fact that I was in this country on my own at the age of 20. I was here for a year and my father died. I was 21 when my father died. He was my rock. And basically, I lived for him. I just had to breathe and he was fine. He wasn't asking anything else of me. And suddenly he was gone. And what do you do at 21 with such a huge range? And you either, you know, some people turn to drugs and alcohol or whatever it was. I turned to meditation, or should I say meditation found me. And that was how I found my way and found meaning and found a way to negotiate life, if you like, without the parental influence, the huge parental influence in my life. I had to start finding my own answers. And it was hard in a different country, in a different culture, and not even knowing who to trust. And I suppose this is where my reading came into, because I could, and to this day, there's something wrong, and I will just go find a book on that topic and just read it. But he was a huge influence in my life, and I know, even though I had him for a short time, I was incredibly lucky to have had him for the short time that I had him, because for that short time, it helped me, if you like, with my mental health. He helped me to realize I mattered, no matter what. I didn't have to be performing at a certain level before I mattered. I just mattered by virtue of being alive. And every human being needs to think like that and know that, you know, if you're human and you're alive, that's all. You are enough, do you know? And if you start with that baseline, you can't go far wrong. But he was a huge, huge influence in my life. For a very short while, but there you go.
Thank you. So another question, this time from Peter James. So we hear so much about the individual taking care of themselves, but do you think enough is being done by the corporate world to support employees and give space to address the 4 pillars? If not, what do you think needs to be done?
Very good question. The corporate world, not quite doing enough, but they're at the table. They are at the table, and we need to be grateful for that. So those of us that are 105 years old, when we started off, there was nothing like agile working. Technology wasn't there to support us, especially if you're a working mother. So now, and I suppose being a female manager, I have got women that feel that they can come and tell me that I'm not coming to work today because of blah, blah, blah. And I can offer that level of understanding. Now, you go into corporate organizations and then you have all sorts happening. You have yoga happening, you have Reiki, you have people coming to give people massages at their desks and stuff like that. That wasn't there, I don't know, 20, 30 years ago. So they are at the table, so we have to give them credit for that. They're there, they could do more, they could do a lot more, and I think that hopefully as more research comes out and they realize that the mental health is at the top, they will support people, because normally when it comes to corporates and organizations, it tends to be about the bottom line. And when they realize that mental health is going to impact the bottom line, and normally when I have an all-woman group and I'm talking to women, I give them a different set of stats that shows them how they actually, the whole GDP of the country is dependent on them. That is a very elegant argument, but there you go, it is there. But once governments and organizations realize that things like mental health impact on the bottom line, not only will they come to the table, they will be building the tables. So they're there, but they can do more.
Okay. Any more questions in the room?
I'm a father of a 12-year-old girl, and I've not read the book, but I will be reading the book. What advice should I be giving to my daughter? If you take this back, obviously it's aimed at young women, I suppose, and I'm not sure, I'll read it in the appropriateness of whether she should read it or not.
Yes.
But if I step back a bit, how do I synthesize this into that sort of advice for a 12-year-old who's growing up in quite a complex world with social media and with all those other challenges that are there in the world? What's your advice on that?
Yeah, so for younger women, that is one of my main driving force, so they don't end up where I ended up, because they face different pressures. We didn't have social media in our time. They face different pressures, and the pressures is about how do I look on Instagram and all the rest of it, which is another whole dimension that we didn't have to battle with. And for younger women, what I'm saying to them, and the main thing in this book that is pivotal to them, is living around your biology. And we're not taught as women to honor our biology, and we don't even, some people think, what are you talking about? When you read the book, it's all there. We are different from men, biologically and physically as well, and we're just different. We're built different, and we need to realize that and live around that and respect our biology, because when you do respect your biology, this is just talking about the physical, when you do respect your biology and live in sync with your biology, you have a different life. And if you don't, you're just setting yourself up for illness. And I mean, I didn't know that. I came at this late. And I think if young women know that, they will structure their priorities differently when it comes to the physical side of things. And in the book, again, I talk about, depending on, your biology and where we are, when to have the challenging conversation with your boss. So it's knowing that, because once you know that, and you know that your biology actually also impacts your emotions, and all these things are interlinked. So when I'm giving these talks, it was like, oh, which bit is the most important? I don't think that's the most important, apart from the spiritual. They're all interconnected. You can't do one and take away from the other. But for young women, they need to understand and respect their bodies and who they are and how they've been built. And when it gets to the mental, the stunning statistics out there, there is an epidemic of young women now on antidepressants, which is just staggering. And it's just because we're not taught how to live. Our life is changing, it's fast-paced, and we're not actually taught how to do the balance thing and do the exercise and manage our, you know, emotions and mentally and all that. And we're just there responding to stimuli rather than saying, okay, all this thing is happening, but I'm only going to engage with that. And when you're a young woman, even having the confidence or the courage to say, I'm only going to engage in that. And that courage comes from a grown-up like you, reinforcing them and letting them know that this is what is important. So if they know that the top 4 things that's going to make you the impact your life satisfaction is that, it helps set their priorities. So they learn to respect their biology, they know their priorities in terms of what will make them happy, and then that helps them make better choices that support them.
Thank you.
Do you have any more questions?
I'd just like to say thank you actually, just because it's good to take that step back and actually think about what your productivity of the day looks like, and just be more plan focused, and actually start to think about how you're using your productivity, but also, like you say, just putting that balance back into place.
Yeah.
You know, I'm quite a spiritual person, but if it's not there, then you can also be more like a yo-yo and not really have that productivity that you plan for.
Yeah, and so the balance is now, I am busier now than, you know, God. You know, so most people have one full-time job and that's it. I've got like 3 things going on. You know, I also manage a sports events company. I do consulting, I write a book. There's a mother, there's a dog. Husband always comes last, God bless him, but he's there. But there's all these things happening, and at any one time, it's like, what email am I looking? What am I doing? But because I've got the balance, right? Because I've got the balance, I know that, you know, when I'm having an event and you know, I got like 800 people descending on me that were running a sports event, and I got the police phoning to say, you're going to cancel the event, the weather, what is the Met Office saying, all that stress coming at me, right? And I'm thinking I can either go panic or I can go for my hot yoga class, which is what I did. Right? I come back from my hot yoga and I'm like, bring it on. So it is about balance. It's about, you know, not letting the stress overwhelm you, finding ways of dealing with the stress, finding effective ways of communicating so you're not just exploding and then you lose the argument altogether. Finding ways of asking for help from your partner, you know, effective ways, and I go on about that in the book as well. But it's all those, so it's having smart ways to manage your life, and then you can take on more and still not be, you know, losing your bone density at the end of it.
Thank you. Okay. There's if anybody has any more questions online, let us know. Otherwise, I think we'll say thank you so much to Gifty and to Laura. Thank you so much for coming in and for telling us about your book, and more than that, sharing your wisdom with us.
It's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. So.